Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 5 of our reading of. Make sure this is recording. It is okay. Part 5 of our reading of what I'm going to call the Harvard Classics. We were reading the. Okay, in this book are the Apology of Socrates, Phaedo and Crito of Plato, translated by Benjamin Jowett, The Golden Sayings of Epictetus, translated by Hastings Crossley, and The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, translated by George Long, and is edited by Charles W. Eliot, LLD, with introduction and notes. Anyways, and we're going to go over the copyright information, which is copyright 1980, 1937, and 1907 by Grolier Enterprises Corporation. Manufactured in the United States, and we started reading Crito. And it's kind of a play, and I've been doing the voices, and I don't know exactly if I'll be able to do the voices like they've been going, but I've tried to do different voices so you can tell which is Socrates and which is Crito. But anyways, so let's... okay. Now, so when we left off, Crito was trying to convince Socrates to escape prison because he's condemned to death. Socrates does, not Crito. And so we're going to continue. He asked if we're just going to go back half a paragraph. Now you, Crito, are a disinterested person who are not going to die tomorrow. At least there is no human possibility of this. And you are therefore not liable to be deceived by the circumstances in which you are placed. Tell me, then, whether I am right in saying that some opinions, and the opinions of some men only, are to be valued, and other opinions, and the opinions of other men, are not to be valued. I ask you whether I was right in maintaining this. Certainly. The good are to be regarded, and not the bad? Yes. And the opinion of the wise are good, and the opinion of the unwise are evil? Certainly. And what was said about another matter? Was the disciple in gymnastics supposed to attend to the praise and blame and opinion of every man, or if one man only, his physician or trainer, whomever that was, of one man only? And he ought to fear the censure and welcome the praise of that one only, and not of the many? That is clear. And he ought to live and train and eat and drink in the way which seems good to his single master, who has understanding, rather than according to the opinion of all other men put together? True. And if he disobeys and disregards the opinion and approval of the one, and regards the opinion of the many who have no understanding, will he not suffer evil? Certainly he will. And what will the evil be? Whither tending, and what affecting in the disobedient person? Certainly affecting the body, that is what is destroyed by the evil. Very good. This is not very good. And is not this true, Crito, of other things which we need not separately enumerate? In the manner of just and unjust, fair and foul, good and evil, which are the subjects of our present consultation, ought we to follow the opinion of the many and to fear them, or the opinion of the one man who has understanding, and whom we ought to fear and reverence more than all the rest of the world, and whom, deserting, we shall destroy and injure that principle in us, which may be assumed to be improved by justice and deteriorated by injustice? Is there not such a principle? Certainly there is, Socrates. Take a parallel instance. If acting under the advice of men who have no understanding, we destroy that which is improvable by health and deteriorated by disease, When that has been destroyed, I say, would life be worth having? And that is the body? Yes. Could we live having an evil and corrupted body? Certainly not. And will life be worth having if that higher part of man be depraved, which is improved by justice and deteriorated by injustice? Do we suppose that principle, whatever it may be in man, which has to do with justice and injustice, to be inferior to the body? Certainly not. More honored then? Far more honored. Then, my friend, we must not regard what the many say of us, but what he, the one man who is understanding of just and unjust, will say, and what the truth will say, and therefore you begin in error when you suggest that we should regard the opinion of the many about just and unjust, good and evil, honorable and dishonorable. Well, someone will say, but the many can kill us. Yes, Socrates, that will clearly be the answer. That is true, but still I find with surprise that the old argument is, as I conceive, unshaken as ever. And I should like to know whether I may say the same of another proposition, that not life, but a good life, is to be chiefly valued. Yes, that also remains, and a good life is equivalent to a just and honorable one. That holds also? Yes, that holds. From these premises, I proceed to argue the question whether I ought or ought not to try to escape without the consent of the Athenians. And if I am clearly right in escaping, then I will make the attempt. But if not, I will abstain. The other considerations which you mention of money and loss of character, and the duty of educating children, are, I fear, only the doctrines of the multitude, who would be as ready to call people to life, if they were able, as they are to put them to death, and with as little reason. But now, since the argument has thus far prevailed, the only question which remains to be considered is whether we shall do rightly either in escaping or in suffering others to aid in our escape and paying them in money, and thanks, to whether we shall not do rightly. And if the latter, then death or any other calamity which may ensue on my remaining here must not be allowed to enter into the calculation. I think that you are right, Socrates. How then shall we proceed? Let us consider the matter together, and do you either refute me, if you can, and I will be convinced, or else cease, my dear friend, from repeating to me that I ought to escape against the wishes of the Athenians, for I am extremely desirous to be persuaded by you, but not against my own better judgment. And now, please to consider my first position, and do your best to answer me. I will do my best. Are we to say that we are never intentionally to do wrong, or that in one way we ought, and in another way we ought not to do wrong? Or is doing wrong always evil and dishonorable, as I was just now saying, and as has been already acknowledged by us, are all our former admissions, which we made within a few days, to be thrown away? And have we, at our age, been earnestly discoursing with one another all our life long, only to discover that we are no better than children? Or are we to rest assured, in spite of the opinion of the many, and in spite of consequences, whether better or worse, of the truth of what was then said, that injustice is always an evil and dishonor to him who acts unjustly? Shall we affirm that? Yes. Then we must do no wrong. Certainly not. Nor when injured, injure in return, as the many imagine. For we must injure no one at all. Certainly not. Again, Crito, may we do evil? Surely not, Socrates. And what of doing evil in return for evil, which is the morality of the many? Is that just or not? Not just. For doing evil to another is the same as injuring him? Very true. Then we ought not to retaliate or render evil for evil to anyone, whether evil or whatever evil we may have suffered from him. But I would have you consider, Crito, whether you really mean what you are saying, for this opinion has never been held and never will be held for any considerable number of persons, and those who are agreed and those who are not agreed upon this point have no common ground and can only despise one another, when we see how widely they differ. Tell me, then, whether you agree with the assent to my first principle, that neither injury nor retaliation nor warding off evil by evil is ever right, and shall that be the premise of our agreement? Or do you decline and dissent from them? For this has been of old and is still my opinion, but if you are of another opinion, let me hear what you have to say. If however, you remain of the same mind as formerly, I will proceed to the next step. You may proceed, for I have not changed my mind. Then I will proceed to the next step, which may be put in the form of a question. Ought a man to do what he admits to be right, or ought he be to betray the right? He ought to do what he thinks right. But if this is truth, what is the application? In having the prison against in leaving the prison against the will of the Athenians, do I wrong any? Or rather, do I not wrong those whom I ought least to wrong? Do I not desert the principles which have acknowledged by us to be just? What do you say? I cannot tell, Socrates, for I do not know. Then consider the matter this way. Imagine that I am about to play truant. You may call it the proceeding by any name which you like. And the law and the government come and interrogate me. Tell us, Socrates, they say, what are you about? Are you going by an act of yours to overturn us, the laws, and the whole state, as far as in you lie? Do you imagine that a state can subsist and not be overthrown, in which the decisions of law have no power, but are set aside and overthrown by individuals? What will be your answer, Crito, to these and the like words? Anyone, and especially a clever rhetorician, will have a good deal to urge about the evil of setting aside the law which requires a sentence to be carried out. And we may reply, yes, but the state has injured us and given us unjust sentence. Suppose I say that. Very good, Socrates. And was that our agreement with you, the law may say, or were you to abide by the sentence of the state? And if I were to express astonishment at their saying this, the law would probably add, answer, Socrates, instead of opening your eyes. You are in the habit of asking and answering questions. Tell us what complaint you have to make against us, which justifies you in attempting to destroy us and the state. In the first place, did we not bring you into existence? Your father married your mother by our aid and begat you. Say whether you have any objection to urge against those of us who regulate marriage. None, I should reply, or against those of us who regulate the system of nurture and education of children in which you were trained. Were not the laws who have the charge of this right in commanding your father to train you in music and gymnastics? Right, I should reply. Well, then, since you were brought into the world and nurtured and educated by us, can you deny in the first place that you are a child and slave, as your fathers were before you? And if this is true, you are not on equal terms with us. nor can you think that you have a right to do to us what you are doing to you, what we are doing to you. Would you have any right to strike or revile or do any other evil to a father or to your master if you had one, when you have been struck or reviled by him or received some other evil at his hands? You would not say this. And because we think right to destroy you, do you think that you have any right to destroy us in return and your country as far as in you lies? And will you, O professor of true virtue, say that you are justified in this? Has a philosopher like you failed to discover that our century is more to be valued and higher and holier far than mother or father or an ancestor, and more to be regarded in the eyes of the gods and of men of understanding? Also to be soothed and gently and reverently entreated with anger when angry, even more than a father, and if not persuaded, obeyed. And when we are punished by her, whether with imprisonment or stripes, the punishment is to be endured in silence. And if she if she leads us to wounds or death in battle, thither we follow as is right. Neither may anyone yield or retreat or leave his rank, but whether in battle or in a court of law or in any other place, he must do what his city and his country order him, or he may change their view of what is just. And if he may do no violence to his father or mother, much less may he do violence to his country. What answer shall we make to this, Crito? Do the laws speak truly, or do they not? Okay, I think that they do. Then the laws will say, consider, Socrates, if this is true, that in your present attempt you are going to do us wrong, for after having brought you into the world and nurtured and educated you and given you and every other citizen a share of every good that we have to give, we further proclaim and give the right to every Athenian that if he does not like us when he has come of age and has seen the ways of the city and made our acquaintance, he may go where he pleases and take his goods with him. And none of us laws will forbid him to interfere with him. Any of you who do not like us and the city, and who wants to go to a colony or to any other city, may go where he likes and take his goods with him. But he who has experience in the manner in which we order justice and administer the state, and still remains, has entered into an implied contract that he will do as we command him. And he who disobeys us, as we maintain thrice wrong, first, because in disobeying us, he is disobeying his parents. Secondly, because he is the author of his education. Because we are the authors of his education. Thirdly, because he has made an agreement with us that he will duly obey our commands. And he neither obeys them nor convinces us that our commands are wrong. And we do not rudely impose them, but give him the alternative of obeying or convincing us. That is what we offer, and he does neither. These are the sort of accusations to which, as we were saying, you, Socrates, will be exposed if you accomplish your intentions. You above all other Athenians. Suppose I ask, why is that? They will justly retort upon me that I, above all other men, have acknowledged the agreement. There's clear proof, they will say, Socrates, that we and the city were not displeasing to you. Of all Athenians, you have been the most constant resident in the city, which, as you never leave, you may be supposed to love. For you never went out of the city, either to see the games, except once when you went to the isthmus, or to any other place, unless when you were in when you were on military service. Nor did you travel any nor did you travel as other men do, nor have you any curiosity to know what states or their laws, nor had you any curiosity to know other states or their laws. Your affections did not go beyond us and our states. We were your special favorites, and you acquiesced in our government of you. And this is the state in which you begat your children, which is a proof of your satisfaction. Moreover, you might, if you had liked, had fixed the penalty at banishment in the course of the trial. The state which refused to let you go now would have let you go then. But you pretended that you preferred death to exile, and that you were not grieved at death. And now that you have forgotten these fine sentiments, and pay no respect to us, the laws, of which you are the destroyer, and are doing what only a miserable slave would do, running away and turning your back upon the compacts and agreements which you made as a citizen. And first of all, answer this very question. Are we right in saying that you agreed to be governed according to us in deed and not in word only? Is that true or not? How shall we answer that, Crito? Must we not agree? This is no help, Socrates. Then will they not say, you, Socrates, are breaking the covenants and agreements which you made with us at your leisure? Not in any haste or under any compulsion or deception, but having had 70 years to think of them, during which time you were at liberty to leave the city. If we were not to your mind, or if our covenants appeared to you to be unfair, you had your choice, and might have gone either to Lacedaemon or Crete, which you often praise for their good government, or to some other Hellenistic or foreign state, whereas you above all other Athenians seem to be so fond of the state, or, in other words, of us, her laws. For who would like a state that has no laws? That you never stirred out of her, and halt the blind and maimed. Were not many stationary in her than you were? And now you can run away and forsake your agreements? Not so, Socrates. If you will take our advice, do not make yourself ridiculous by escaping out of the city. For just consider, if you transgress and err in this sort of way, what good will you do either to yourself or to your friends? That your friends will be driven into exile and deprived of citizenship, or will lose their property, is tolerably certain, and you yourself, if you fly to one of the neighboring cities, as for example Thebes or Megara, both of which are well-governed cities, will come to them as an enemy, Socrates, and this government will be against you, and all patriotic citizens will cast an evil eye upon you as a subverter of the laws. And you will confirm in the minds of the judges the justice of their own condemnation of you. For he who is a corrupter of the laws is more than likely to be a corrupter of the youth and foolish portion of mankind. Will you then flee from well-ordered cities and virtuous men, and is existence worth having on these terms? Or will you go to them without shame and talk to them, Socrates? And what will you say to them? What you say here about virtue and justice and instructions and laws being the best thing among men? Would that be decent of you? Surely not. But if we go away from well-governed cities to Crito's friends in Thessaly, where there is great disorder and license, they will be charmed to have the tale of your escape from prison set off with ludicrous particulars of the manner in which you were wrapped in a goatskin or some other disguise, and metamorphosed as the fashion of a runaway is. That is very likely, but will there be no one to remind you that in your old age you violated the most sacred laws from a miserable desire of a little more life? Perhaps not, if you keep them in a good temper. But if they are out of temper, you will hear many degrading things. You will live, but how? As the flatterer of all men and the servant of all men, and doing what? Eating and drinking in Thessaly, having gone abroad in order that you may get a dinner? And where will you and where will be your fine sentiments about justice and virtue then? Say that you wish to live for the sake of your children, and you may bring them up and educate them. Will you take them into Thessaly and deprive them of Athenian citizenship? Is that the benefit which you would confer upon them? Or are you under the impression that they will be better cared for and educated here if you are still alive, although absent from them? For that your friends will take good care of them? But do you fancy that if you are an inhabitant of Thessaly, they will take care of them? And if you are an inhabitant of the other world, they will not take care of them? Nay, but if they who call themselves friends are truly friends, they surely will. Listen then, Socrates, to us who have brought you up. Think not of life and children first, and of justice afterwards, but of justice first, that you may be justified before the princes of the world below. For neither will you nor any that belong to you be happier or holier or juster in this life, or happier in another. If you do as Crito bids, now you depart in innocence, a sufferer and not a doer of evil, a victim not of the laws but of men. But if you go forth returning evil for evil and injury for injury, breaking the covenants and agreements which you have made with us, and wronging those whom you ought least not wrong, or at least to wrong, that is to say yourself, your friends, your country, and us, we shall be angry with you while you live, and our brethren, the laws in the world below, will receive you as an enemy, for they will know that you have done your best to destroy us. Listen, then, to us and not to Crito. This is the voice which I seem to hear murmuring in my ear, like the sound of a flute in the ears of the mystics. That voice, I say, is humming in my ear and prevents me from hearing any other. And I know that anything more which you will say will be in vain. Yet speak, if you have anything to say. I have nothing to say, Socrates. Then let me follow the intimations of the will of God. I guess that's it. Okay. Okay. And we have another play here, and this is Phaedo. Okay. Okay, persons in the dialogue. Phaedo, who is the narrator of the dialogue to Echecrates of Philus. And there's Socrates, there's Apollodorus, Simmias, Crebes, Caro, attendants of the person. Scene. Okay, this is the prison of Socrates. The place of the narration is Phileus. So, I don't know exactly how to differentiate between these, but we're going to try it. This is Echecrates. Were you yourself, Phaedo, in the prison with Socrates on the day when he drank the poison? Yes, Echecrates, I was. I wish that you would tell me about his death. What did he say in his last hours? We were informed that he died by taking poison, but no one knew anything more, for no Pelagian ever goes to Athens now, and a long time has elapsed since any Athenian found his way to Phlius, and therefore we have no clear account. Did you not hear of the proceedings of the trial? Yes, someone told us about the trial, and we could not understand why, having been condemned, he was put to death as appeared not at the time, but long afterwards. What was the reason for this? An accident, Echecrates. The reason was that the stern of the ship which the Athenians sent to Delos happened to have been crowned on the day before he was tried. What is this ship? This is the ship in which the Athenians say Theseus went to Crete when he took with him the 14 youths and was saved and was the savior of them and of himself. And they were said to have vowed to Apollo at the time that if they were saved, they would make an annual pilgrimage to Delos. Now, this custom still continues, and the whole period of the voyage to and from Delos, beginning when the priest of Apollo crowns the stern of the ship, is a holy season during which the city is not allowed to be polluted by public executions. And often, when the vessel is detained by adverse winds, there may be a very considerable delay. As I was saying, the ship was crowned on the day before the trial, and this was the reason why Socrates lay in prison and was not put to death until long after he was condemned. What was the manner of his death, Phaedo? What was said or done? And which of his friends had he with him? Or were they not allowed by the authorities to be present? And did he die alone? No, there were several of his friends with him. If you have nothing to do, I wish that you would tell me what passed as exactly as you can. I have nothing to do, and will try to gratify your wish. For to me, too, there was no greater pleasure than to have Socrates brought to my recollection, whether I speak myself or hear another speak of him. You will have listeners who are the same mind with you, and I hope that you will be as exact as you can. I remember the strange feeling which came over me at being with him, for I could hardly believe that I was present at the death of a friend, and therefore I did not pity him. Echecrates, his men and his language was so noble and fearless in the hour of death that to me he appeared blessed. I thought that in going to the other world he could not be without a divine call, and that he would be happy, if any man ever was, when he arrived there, and therefore I did not pity him, as might seem natural at the time. But neither could I feel the pleasure which I usually felt in philosophical discourse, for philosophy was the theme of which we spoke. I was pleased and was also pained because I knew that he was soon to die, and this strange mixture of feeling was shared by us all. We were laughing and weeping by turns, especially the excitable Apollodorus. And you know the sort of man? Yes. He was quite overcome, and I myself and all of us were greatly moved. Who were present? Of native Athenians, there were besides Apollodorus, Critobulus and his father Crito, Hermogenes, Epigenes, Essekhines, and Antisthenes. Likewise, Chrysippus of the deme of Pania, Menexenus, and some others. But Plato, if I am not mistaken, was ill. Were there any strangers? Yes, there were. Simmias the Theban, and Cebes, and Phaedondas, Euclid, and Terpison, who came from Megara, and was Aristippus there, and Cleombrotus? No, they were said to be in Aegina. Anyone else? I think these were about all. Oh, whoa, we went way over. We're going to have to stop this here. We've been reading from the Harvard Classics. We read from Crito, and we started Phaedo. So, anyway, if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, support me in any way. Or if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.